Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited that you're here with us today. I'm Shira Raymond with Suddenly Single. So, welcome back, and I'm so excited today because I have a really amazing guest with me. Her name is Rena Yudkowsky. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay, good. I've been trying to practice it all day.
Yeah, it's good.
Not an easy name, but I get it. Okay. And Rena is a professional memory coach and a geriatric social worker, and she's the founder of an organization called Memory Matters. She teaches online memory improvement courses to midlifers and others. And over the past 20 years in the field, she has served as the director of an Alzheimer's unit in an assisted living facility in Maryland and the director of development at the Senior Enrichment Program in Israel. Trainer for dementia caregivers, facilitators, and support groups. She's also an international lecturer on aging topics. Currently, she is a memory coach for an international anti-aging clinic where she does one-on-one coaching and is working on a comprehensive program to prevent dementia. Wow, that's incredible. She's super passionate about her mission of helping those 50 plus to age more healthfully, both physically and cognitively, as she empowers them to believe in their own memory with confidence and grace. So, welcome to the show, Rena.
Thank you so much, Shira.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's a
So tell me
pleasure
a
to be
little
here.
bit more about your background and how you got into this. I mean, it's really interesting.
It's a special niche. So I originally got into it as a teenager. When all my friends went to summer camp, I went to the nursing home to volunteer, and I loved it. I fell in love with working with older people. So after I did my year in Israel, so I volunteered many years in high school. And then after I did my year in Israel, I went back and I had to do something in college. I was like, I don't have any interest other than working with seniors. So I pursued a degree in that. I ended up doing an undergraduate and then a master's in social work, specializing in what they called it clinical aging then. This was like 25 years ago. And then I actually worked as the head of an Alzheimer's unit in an assisted living facility in Maryland. And then I got married and moved to Israel. And over the years here in Israel, I did a lot of interesting things in the field. But I actually took a course in Hebrew from a cognitive psychologist all about memory. And it's fascinating. Memory is so fascinating to me, especially when we work with people whose memories don't work. And then you start to wonder, well, what makes it work? What makes it not work? And this is a very fascinating field of neurology and neuroscience and neuropsychiatry and brain fitness. And of course, today, memory is a very hot topic because there's so much empowering research that there's so much we can do to prevent dementia, even if we have the genes for it. So it's a very exciting field. I always say, I hope that they find a cure for Alzheimer's in my lifetime. But I feel like we're getting there. We're getting there with a lot of good information and there's no cures, but we know a lot more. We understand a lot more about it. But in the meantime, there's a lot we can do to stay sharper longer. And I want to just connect this to your Suddenly Single, to this show and this podcast, this show, I guess it is. When we find ourselves in a different place, whether it's through grief, as a widow, or through divorce, which has its own sometimes trauma, sometimes just major transition. We need to really pivot in our lives. So a lot of change, and this usually happens as we get, a little older, and people start to feel changes. So grief, anxiety, trauma, that all affects our cognition and our brain. Of course, that's a whole topic on its own, which I don't think we'll get to tonight, but there is a connection there. And
that makes sense.
Yes, and that's where you and we really can overlap to help people through this transition period in their lives. So that's how I got into it. I took that course originally in Hebrew. I then started teaching it in English for many different places live here in Israel. And then when COVID hit, even before COVID hit, I wanted to put this online. And over COVID, I found myself doing webinars for senior groups all over the world. And all the seniors that were never online went online and needed programming and cognitive stimulation. So here I was, I talk all about memory and focus, tips, techniques, very practical stuff to really help us keep sharper longer. We want to keep our brain really, really sharp for as long as we can, really until 120. So that's my goal. My goal is to really help people. And when I say age, I'm aging starts, in our 40s and 50s, and even before our brain starts to change. But in our 40s and 50s, we start to sometimes we feel different. We feel something going on. We might not feel as sharp as we did. We might feel overwhelmed, hard to focus. I hear that a lot from people in even their 40s and 50s. So there's a lot going on that we can talk about. What happens as we age with our memory.
Yeah, I guess not everybody's as blessed as my mother at 92 with a good memory.
Amazing.
I know, she cracks me up. When I moved back here to Israel, and I was telling her I ran into a friend of mine, or I was talking to a friend of mine from 25 years ago, and I was like, "Do you remember her, Mom?" And because she used to come and visit me when I used to live here
Mhm.
back then. And she's like, "Yeah, didn't she used to wear that green dress to that wedding?" I'm like, "How do you remember that?" Like, I
That's
didn't even
amazing.
remember that.
I want to be
So I
like
had
that
to, I
at that
know. So I
age.
had to call my friend up and say, "Did you have a green dress?" She's like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Wow, my mother remembers that." And my mother's 92. So, there's hope for us.
Oh yes. Yes, that's amazing. Then you have good genes that are going to hopefully stand in good stead for you.
Yeah, God willing. That's what I'm
Mhm.
hoping on. So, why don't you share one of your best memory
Yeah.
tips with us right now?
Okay, so here's one that is super practical. And every time I teach this, people say it helps them. Okay. This is part of a webinar. One of my webinars that I do is called What Did I Come to the Fridge For? You know that feeling? You go to the fridge, you open the fridge, and you're like, now what did I come here for? Can't remember. And we blame it on our memory. But guess what? It's not memory, it's focus and attention. Because what happens? You think I need the milk from the fridge. You take those 10 or 20 steps to the fridge. And then what happens in those few seconds, even your brain goes, I need to do that. I didn't do that, all over the place, right? And then we get to the fridge and we have to bring our brain back to like 20 or 30 thoughts ago, or how many thoughts we had. So it's not memory, it's really focus. And we live in such a distracted world. But you're probably wondering what the quick solution to that scenario is. So I'll tell you, I won't keep you waiting.
Okay.
Really, really silly and simple.
Okay.
You have the thought, I need the milk from the fridge. As you're walking to the fridge, you keep saying out loud, milk, 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 milk. That doesn't you're not allowing your internal distraction to happen or no external distractions. So that's just one silly situation. But the tip that I want to share, which is part of this webinar, I have 4 tips on this webinar that I teach. I'm going to share one really good one with you tonight. And that is use your senses. Our senses stimulate our brain. So when we use one sense to encode a memory, we might have about a 10% chance of remembering it. If you use 4 senses, you have about a 97% chance of remembering it. So
Wow.
how do we do that? How do we use our senses? And we can use them to remember that we locked the door, that we turned off the stove, that we took our medicines. These are everyday scenarios, right? In fact, before I tell you exactly how to do it, I'll tell you a story of a lady watched my webinar, and she said every night she would go upstairs to her bedroom, and then she couldn't remember whether she locked her door. So she would come back down the steps and check the door. And it was driving her crazy because the didn't I, and the anxiety of did I lock my door, it was driving her absolutely crazy. It was like a quality of life issue. She just needed a solution. I was like, this is easy. Okay, I'm going to help you. And I gave her, I told her this technique about how to use her senses. And after that, she gave me feedback. I think she wrote me an email and she said, that's it. It worked. I don't go down and check my door anymore. She can go to sleep with a clear mind that she locked her door. Okay. So what's the technique? The technique is to use your senses. How? So instead of just like multitasking and being on my phone or talking to my kids while I just shut the door and walk away, because then I'm not mindful. I'm not paying any attention to what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
multitasking, which is another thing you can talk about. Now I'm going to stop for 2 seconds. I'm going to feel the key in my hand. I'm going to look at the key. I'm going to hear the click when I put it in the door to lock the door. I'm going to hear the click. I'm going to hear myself shut the door. That makes a sound. So I'm using my ears. I'm using my sense of feeling and seeing. I'm watching my hand lock the door. And as soon as I lock the door, I say out loud, I have now locked my door. That's it. I have now locked my door. That takes 2 seconds to do what I just said. But
Right.
those 2 seconds help you encode it. Encode means to get into long-term memory so that you can recall it when you want it, right? So if it's in the
Right.
right file properly, then you can find it. So you walk away from your house and you go on the bus, you go drive away, and then 10 minutes later, an hour later, you say, I don't know if I locked my door. And they say, I did. I remember feeling the key in my hand. I remember watching my hand turn the lock. I remember hearing the door shut, and I remember saying out loud, I have now locked the door. This is so simple. You just have to get into the habit of doing it. But when you do it, it really, really works. I'll give you another
I could,
example. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I could see, it's so great. You know how the stoves here in Israel, they have a glass top on them, right?
Yeah,
That you don't cook on it, but you can put it down to make it
right.
look nicer. So one Friday afternoon, I put it down, and um, and I noticed that there was like a little dark spot getting on it, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, this is really weird. So of course I touched it with my fingers, burnt my fingertips. One of my burners was still on. And
Ouch.
luckily I caught it before the glass shattered.
Yeah.
But I've realized since then, like there's been multiple times that I have forgotten to turn the gas off. And sometimes I don't walk back into the kitchen for hours. So
Yeah.
I could see how this could be really beneficial for me. Like, watching myself after I'm done cooking something, putting my hand on that knob, turning it off, and saying, okay, it is turned off. So I can move forward and not think about that anymore.
Yes, that was the next example. Thank you. And I would add one more thing to that example. Move the pot. Like if you do an action, then you're likely to remember that you actually move the pot and you're watching your hand move it. You're not talking on the phone. You're not even listening to anything. You really need to be concentrating on what you're doing, even if it's as simple as this, because of exactly what you just said. It's dangerous. It can be dangerous. So you're moving the pot. You're watching your hand turn it off. You're watching the fire go out. You might smell the food like not like sort of stop sizzling, stop cooking. And you're saying out loud, I have now turned off my stove. And that's it. You don't have to worry about it. That's another example. The third example that I always like to give is taking medicines because people always say, oh, did I take my medicine? Did I not take my medicine? And that also could be dangerous. If you take double the amount or you don't take your medicine, in some cases, it can be very dangerous. So
Right.
the same thing. So a lot of people use those pill boxes, which work well. But again, you can use your senses to when you're taking your medicine to remember that you're taking it. So you're looking at the pills. You might even just think to yourself, remind yourself what they're for. You can feel them going down your throat. Most pills don't have an actual taste. Some are bitter, like some vitamins are a little bitter. Or if it's like drops, you can feel the drops going under your tongue, like vitamin D drops. So you're going to feel it going down your throat with the water. And you're going to say out loud, I have now taken my Monday morning meds or my Monday night meds or my Sunday midday meds. You say it out loud. So later you say, did I take my medicine today? So yeah, you could go check your pill box and see if it's not there. But what about if you just want to remember yourself without having to go check it? So you're going to use your senses. Now, in order to remember to do it, right? Then you're going to put that pill box somewhere where you will see it. So you're doing like an environmental cue. You're putting it with your breakfast if you take it with breakfast, or you're putting it next to your keys if you take it as you're about to leave the house. Whatever you do, you're putting it in a place where you're going to see it so that you remember to take it. And then once you take it, you look at it, you feel it, you say out loud. And then oftentimes people ask me, but how do I remember if I took it today or yesterday or 3 weeks ago? Right? Is that a good question? I'll just
Yeah,
preempt the
but why
question
3 weeks ago?
Oh, whatever. Today, yesterday, the day before. Like, how do we know which day I'm remembering? Right? Because we do the
Right.
same thing every day. I take the same medicine every day, right?
Right.
Usually. So, and the answer to that is also is fascinating because our brain has this amazing filter system, like garbage waste system. So whatever we don't need gets filtered out, and it's really amazing. It's miraculous. So I don't have to remember that 3 days ago I took the medicine because over and done with. It's gone. That memory, I don't need it anymore. It's filtered out. Even yesterday, it's filtered out. But today, when I think back, today I can remember that I took my medicine. I remember where I was standing.
Right.
I
And I
usually
think,
actually,
like
yeah,
you said, it's really helpful if you say, like, okay, I just took my Monday morning meds.
exactly.
And
Exactly. That
because
even
then
cements it
you're
further.
saying the day over and over. I could see
Yeah.
how, I know for me, I've come to rely on alarms on my
Yeah.
cell phone. And I find those to be so helpful. I even have in there the 2 days a week that I call my mother to call mom.
Wow. That's great. I love that. I love that. Then you will not forget to call her.
Right, or if I have to turn off the hot water heater, right? I just put in tell Google to set an alarm for however long I need, and it just reminds me so that way I don't have to keep looking at the clock to remember if
Yes.
something's done or not.
Yes, we live in a time where technology really can help us a lot. I do a lot of webinars to seniors, and the seniors have told me that they use Alexa to remind them to do things, and I love it. I love when I hear that. I think it's adorable. And yes, we should use technology. We should use our timers and clocks and ringers and everything. We do want to be careful not to outsource our brain, which means that if you're going to tell me, oh, Rena, I can't remember your name, it's like, Shira, you can remember my name. So we want to be careful not to outsource our brain to technology, but for sure we should use technology to help us. So, for example, numbers. Everyone says, oh, no one remembers numbers anymore because we don't need to because it's all in our phones, right? So I say, no problem. If it's not important to you and you don't need to, fine. But if there's one number that you want to remember, I want you to have the technique so that you can remember that number. Or maybe it's 2 numbers or 3 numbers, whatever it is. So it's true. No longer do we need to remember 20 numbers. Like, years ago, we knew all the numbers by heart. And today, no one knows numbers by
Absolutely.
heart. But what I do is I empower people and give them the tools and techniques that for whatever they want to remember, whatever's important for them to remember, they can.
So let me ask you a question because I know, like, for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people that are going to be listening to this, names is always
Yeah.
like a challenging thing, especially like when you're in a big room, maybe at a networking event or
Yeah.
something like that. And I remember I was so impressed one time. It must have been like in the 80s or early 90s. And I went to go see Howie Mandel live.
Hmm.
He's the comedian. And one of the things that stood out to me and impressed me so much when I was watching him is that he would call out somebody in the audience. He'd say, "What's your name? What's your name? What's your name?"
Mm.
And they would say their name, right? And then he would do this like over the course of the show with like 5 or 7 people. And he kept coming back to those people, and he had their names every single time. I was so impressed by that. So, what can we do to help us remember names of people that we just meet?
Yes. So that is one of the main reasons that people come take a memory course. And in my full course, I actually spend like at least 3 hours on it. Not because it's hard, but because I practice and practice and practice with people. So it is a whole technique that I teach in my course, and I have a master class, but I'm going to give you the first piece of it now. The first piece of it is like this. When you meet someone and they say their name, you want to repeat the name back to them at least 3 times in the conversation. Again, we just said because you're using your senses, you're going to hear yourself say the name. So you're going to comment on the name. So let's say you never heard my name. Say, Rena, what does that mean? And I'm going to tell you it means joy. Rena means joy. And you're going to say, oh, I've never heard that name before. Or you could say, I have an aunt with that name, or I have a sister-in-law with that name. You comment on the name. You talk about it. If you don't know what it means, you ask what it means. And what are you doing by doing this? You're giving it attention. Same thing that we're talking about. We're giving it attention. The more attention you give it, the more likely it is you're going to remember it. And then you're going to say it back to me. So it goes like this. Hi, Shira. And I'm going to say my name. My name is Rena. And you're going to say, hi, Rena. Nice to meet you. Where are you? Where are you from? I'm going to say, I live in Ramat Beit Shemesh. And you're going to say, Rena, tell me what you do. So you just said my name 3 times, right? And then at the end of the conversation, you might say, okay, bye, Reno. So nice to meet you. So, and that might have been a longer conversation, but you're going to say the name at least 3 to 4 times. That alone, without going into any of the other fancy techniques about associations and mental images, which I teach, but that alone is going to help you because you just said the name 3 or 4 times. You gave it attention. You heard yourself say it. instead of just it going in one ear and out the other, which is what happens when we meet new people. So
Right.
so that is a very, very easy technique. And also, I just want to preempt that by saying you also have to start by caring to remember the name. Like people say, oh, I could meet 30 people. I don't really care what their name is. If you don't care, you're not remembering. When I go meet
Right.
30 new people, I really care to remember their names. So I work really hard to remember their names. I was recently at a networking event. There were about 25 women there, and they introduced themselves. And by the end of the morning, I knew all their names. Now, some of them I had met before, and I made sure I heard the name. I made sure I, connected the face to the name. So there's a whole technique that I do. But the first part is when you're talking to them, you say the name back to them a few times and you comment on the name. You say, a lot of times we play Jewish geography, right? We say, are you related to this one or that one? And we know the name. And that helps us get it into the right place so that we can recall it later.
Yeah.
That's the very
Makes
first
sense.
part of the technique that works well. So start with that. The next time you meet someone, you repeat the name back to them. And you have to hear it, obviously. If you don't hear it, you're not going to remember it. So you got to hear it, you got to care to remember it, and you got to say it back to them 3 times in that conversation.
Awesome. So, I saw like in your bio that you have some courses and stuff that you teach. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Sure. So I actually just started teaching my course on Zoom for the 3rd time. So I launched this like 3 years ago. Now the full course is 14 sessions. It's all the techniques, names, numbers, lists of items, um, all the lifestyle factors to help prevent dementia. So we're talking about the research on diet and exercise and social stimulation, cognitive stimulation, brain exercises, everything. That's in the full course. And I insist on teaching that live because I love coaching people through it, like really working it and practicing till they get it. For people that want something more automated or not time bound, like you don't have to show up live, I have a membership. It's called Remembership. And that's a 3-month membership that is just automated. You get a short video a week, a brain exercise a week. You do it whenever you want. It's really fun, but it's not all the techniques of names, numbers, and lists of items, but it's a lot of other good stuff. For people that just want to hop on and join me once a month, I have something called Monday Memory Motivation, which is brain exercises. We do brain exercises together once a month, no long-term commitment, really low ticket item, really doable. And just to find out about that, people can just get on my email list. Shira will share my website.
Let me put up
Yeah.
your link for your website. There
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
RenaYudkowsky.com. It's my name, RenaYudkowsky.com. You go to my website, you join my email list, and then you will get emails about Monday Memory Motivation. It's the first Monday of every month. You'll also see on the website information about membership and my course. And of course, I'm available for any questions at any point. Please email me. Happy to answer any questions that you have about memory or focus or aging. I also do one-on-one memory coaching for people that the programs are not they're not appropriate for, maybe people with dementia who really need more one-on-one attention. I do a lot of one-on-one memory coaching, and I also do webinars for senior groups and organizations all over the world. So if I can help anyone in any way, please be in touch with me.
Wow, that's amazing. You have given us so much information today. I'm so glad that we met and you were able to come on the show and share this wealth of information for my audience.
Yeah,
And
my
please,
pleasure. It's really
yeah,
fun. And, we can prove to ourselves that we can do it. We can feel empowered to use our memory to work for us. So no more of this, I can't remember your name, or I'm always losing it, or what an idiot I am. None of that. Now it's, I have the tools to do this. I can improve my memory. I can age confidently.
well, and that's one of the things that I talk about all the time
Mhm.
is that, you have to be cognitive of what your self talk is because
Yes.
things become self fulfilling prophecies.
Yes,
So if you keep saying, I can't, guess what? You won't. So if you start
exactly.
saying, you know what? I can, then all of a sudden you've empowered yourself to allow yourself to grow and to have these new skills that you didn't have before. And memory is one of those really powerful ones.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really,
I
it's true in
I
every
think,
area of our life, and I obviously apply it to memory. I actually created a 3-video series on self-talk, exactly what you just said, because I saw people were automatically, they had this script in their head that went, I'm such an idiot. I'm getting dementia. What's wrong with me? And if they would just step back and realize, if they would just pay a couple seconds of attention to every task they're doing, there's nothing wrong with them. And it's not even their memory, it's attention. And we're blaming our memory on what's really attention. And if we just are more mindful in in everything we're doing, we're more mindful, we're more present, our brain and our bodies are aligned in the same place, then voila, your memory improves. It's amazing.
yeah, well, we're definitely much more distracted. I know with
Yes,
all the cell phones and, the computers and all the gadgets, it's so easy to, I guess kind of zone out.
exactly.
And we've all kind of been trained to become like the zombie state. And then you wonder why people are having memory issues.
Exactly. And I mean, if you want to just talk about one more thing, which is multitasking. We all think that, oh, if I can do 100 things at once, I'm going to be so productive, right? If I could type an email and talk on the phone and my kids talking to me at the same time, but really it shifts up our brain. So one of the best things you could do to improve your focus and memory is to stop multitasking. You will find that at the end of the day and in the long run, you actually accomplish more if you do one task at a time.
That makes a lot of sense because then you're really doing the mindfulness and really paying attention to that one task. I know
Exactly.
sometimes, like when I'm editing videos or whatever for the show, that I figure, okay, I can, listen to something else or whatever. But there's times I really have to turn it off and
Yeah.
really focus at what I'm doing so I can, really pick up on those little words that I want to edit out or
Yeah.
things that are clarity. But when it comes to writing and listening
Mhm.
to anything, it's like, forget it. I have to just concentrate on what I'm doing.
I can't even
But
type an email and listen to my daughter. I always tell my kids, just let me finish this email and then I will give you my full attention.
I totally get that. I totally get that. And I think it's a good thing just in general for our
Yeah,
relationships with our families is to say, you know
absolutely.
what, let me just finish this task because too many times we are distracted and we're not giving them the full attention that
Right.
they really deserve. So,
Right.
all right. Well, this has been so enlightening and really, really wonderful information.
Great.
Rena's information's on the screen here, and feel free to reach out to her. She's got amazing tools, some of them free or
Yep.
close to,
Yes.
as
Yes.
they say
And I
in
have a
Mexico, almost
YouTube
free.
channel that has lots of free videos.
That's awesome. So we're going to sign off. Everybody, have a great week. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to thank Rena for being our guest today and just really sharing these great memory tips with us because you know what? We're not losing it, folks. We just need to pay more attention to what we're doing.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Shira, so much. This was so fun.
No problem. My pleasure.